We're going to read the names from chapter 5, the meanings of the names, which we always do over here, to show how the Almighty gives us a revelation, a prophecy, not only through the story given in a chapter, but also through the meanings of the names used within that chapter. So we see Yahweh performing prophetical signs and, in fact, acts, actual prophecies through the people that actually did something in history. And I say that because some people may think that if the names are given us such an important message and they are a message from the Almighty, that perhaps those people didn't exist and it is just poetic or something like that, prophetical. But that wouldn't be the case. Yahweh is so powerful that he made history in a way and through the people that he chose who had certain names, and he told all that history through scriptures in a way that each story has certain names which have the meanings that give us also a prophecy. So that's how powerful Yahweh is, even more, of course, and we will see for eternity very soon. So verse 1 has the names Haggai, Zechariah, Edo, Yehuda, Yerushalayim, Israel. So I won't read all the names, just the meanings. I'll connect them. Good thing is that you can see them so that you know which one I'm referring to. So here they translate it as festive, but you see Chag is feast. The Yud is mine. So my feast, Chagai, will be also, well, in the sense of mine will be Chagi. So my feast, Yahweh remembers. We could say during the feast, Yahweh remembers his witness. We know that the two witnesses, witness like Moshe and Eliyahu, they will be captured on a feast, on Yom Teruah, the feast of trumpets, the day of trumpets. Then they will be in prison for 10 days. Then they will be killed on the 10th, Yom Kippur. Then comes Sukkot, when they, the chosen few, flee to the mountains. And then comes Shemini Atzeret, when the seventh trumpet sounds. So here we could say, and also even the two witnesses, everything points to them beginning their testimony on Matzot, which is when Mashiach finished. Just like I mentioned earlier, Mashiach started when the witnesses will finish. Now the witnesses will begin when Mashiach finished. He finished on Matzot when he was killed, and then resurrected still on Matzot. So he finished what he came to do on that feast. So we could also say that on that feast, Yahweh will remember the witnesses so that they go and do their testimony for 1,260 days, as we see in Revelation 11. So in my feast, Yahweh remembers his witness. During the feast, Yahweh remembers his witness. Yahweh will remember them to send them to preach. Yahweh will remember them when they are captured to protect them, to give them strength. And Yahweh will remember them when they are killed in order to resurrect them. So in the feast, Yahweh remembers his witness, who praises Yahweh through the teaching of Shalom, by instructing peace, the true doctrine, in order to become the one who will rule as the mighty one and contend with the mighty one of this world, because the last comes to fight Lucifer and bring him down from the second heaven into the earth, as we see in Revelation 12. After he dies, resurrects, goes up, gets authority, kicks Satan out, and he comes to the earth as the false Messiah. So during the feast, Yahweh remembers his witness, who praises Yahweh by teaching Shalom. He who will rule like the mighty one, who contends with the mighty one of this world, is the one who was sown in confusion in Babylon, born in Babel within the nations. And I say that to understand that just like Moshe was born in Egypt, Zerubbabel was born in Babylon. And there are other examples. Abraham wasn't born in Israel. So many other examples showing how the two witnesses would appear from outside of Jerusalem, from outside of Israel. Even though they may finish their testimony there, scripture doesn't say that they begin or that they do their testimony there, as most people, most Christians believe. So he who was sown in confusion in Babel. This Shealtiel means he who was asked of the mighty one. Or I have asked of the mighty one. So Sheal is to ask, to request. T is I have, and El, the mighty one. So I have asked from the mighty one. But the way I said it in the beginning is because the first is the sovereign whom you seek. The last is the Malach of the covenant whom you desire. So I have asked is people ask for that which they need or desire. There is a difference between the first and the last in the sense that Mashiach is something that we seek because we need shalom, we need forgiveness of sins. We need strength, we need a bunch of things, truth, favor that only come through Mashiach, the first. So that's why is whom we seek, as we see in Malachi 3, the first verse. The last is the one who brings the reward, the good of the new reality. So he's the desired of nations, the one whom the nations ask for. And it's important to mention also that the nations ask for because the first came for Israel. The last comes not only for Israel, but also for the world. That's why Joseph, who is the ancestor of the last, was king in Egypt, which was the empire of the moment. So he who was sown in confusion in Babel is whom the people have asked for, who brings his salvation. Also, we could say the one who was born in confusion, he has asked for his salvation. Because the last comes as a prodigal son and needs salvation himself, as we see in Isaiah 63, when Yahweh speaks about him coming as a Gentile, dressed in red, and he doesn't have anybody to save him except himself. So his own arm saves him. Yahushua is the arm. The last is the hand. So we could see it as Mashiach asking for the last to be saved. Obviously, the last will ask himself to be saved. And also the people have asked for the salvation of Yahweh to manifest, and it will manifest through the teaching of the last. So there are several ways in which we can see these three names. So he who was sown in confusion, born in Babel, is of whom people, or he whom people have asked for to bring the salvation of the mighty one, his salvation. For Yahweh is righteous. He will teach shalom. Salvation and righteousness, first and last. Yotzadak, as we saw, is the short version of Yahutzadak. In fact, you see here in Hebrew, it is Yahutzadak, but that is because of the way the concordance shows it. Yotzadak would be, if we take away this letter Hey, that would be Yotzadak. But if we add the letter Hey, we have Yahutzadak. And that connects with Yahweh Tzidkenu, Yahweh righteousness, as we see is the name in Jeremiah that Yahweh will give, the title that Yahweh will give the last. Just like Yahushua received the title Emmanuel. Because through Yahushua, the Almighty comes to reside among us, with us, within us. But through the last, his righteousness will manifest. So, sown in confusion, born in Babel, He whom the world has asked for, to bring his salvation. For Yahweh is righteous. He will teach shalom as a gift. We could say he will teach the true doctrine without charging, as a gift, not like people or most churches do. Teaching shalom as a gift. Also, the gift is the shalom. And even himself, since he is the desired of nations, he can be seen as a gift. Like, for instance, the name Matidyahu, which means gift of Yahweh. So, teaching shalom as a gift, being the star of splendor, the bright star. This is huge for several reasons. In Isaiah 14, we have a very famous chapter, which is where we find the name normally known as Lucifer, or that was made known as Lucifer, but here we find that it says Heilel ben Shachar. Heilel ben Shachar actually is in verse 12. How you have fallen from the heavens, O Heilel, son of the morning. O Heilel, son of the morning, shining one. It is like a lamp. But son of the morning is important because that's part of what I write in the book. In Hebrew, we find that, let me see here, verse 12, son of the morning. It says, how you have fallen from the Shamaim, Heilel ben Shachar. Heilel ben Shachar. That's a lamp, son of Shachar. Some interpret this as being another entity called Shachar. In this case, Shachar would be Samael, because Heilel, Sabaoth, is son of Samael. But in the sense of what it means, is son of the morning. However, the morning to which Shachar refers to is right before the light comes up, or we can actually see everything. So it is the darkness of the morning. Shachar is pretty much the same root of black, darkness. So how can it be referring to something that is so bright, mentioning that his son is a son of the darkness of the beginning? And that refers to how this is an entity that was born of Samael, known as El as well, who was created in the beginning of creation, in the beginning of the morning, when it was still dark. That's why in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth, and darkness covered the face of the waters, right, of the abyss. So Heilel ben Shachar can also be seen as a lamp that is son of the darkness of the beginning. And some interpret this also as being arrogant, an arrogant entity, and also boastful and a fool. So boast and fool. Heilel ben Shachar. So a lot of people see this as, they even translate it as the morning star. And even we could say bright morning. Well, they translate it as that, not that it could be translated literally, but bright morning star. Now that we see that, how Heilel is called a lamp that could be connected with the morning star because of the Ben Shachar. If we go to Numbers 24, which we just read not that long ago in the congregation, there's a prophecy that Jewish people are expecting it to be fulfilled this year, according to what some scientists have said of an event that will happen in the skies that will seem like a star being born. And they say that it will happen this year. In verse 17, it says, I see him, but not now. I observe him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob. A star shall come out of Jacob. In this case, the word is kokab. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. It refers to Mashiach, both first and last. And I mean, both parts can be connected to both first and last. There was a star that came out to show the way to Mashiach when he had been born, to show the way to the wise men. And there seems to be a possible fulfillment of it through the birth of a star in the heavens this year. But in the spiritual sense, the last will fulfill this by being Michael himself coming through Joseph, meaning being a son of Jacob after having been a malach, so becoming a human. A star represents a malach, will come out of Jacob as a person. And a scepter shall rise out of Israel, because that is the authority that Yahweh will give him. He will be the king of kings, the last, just like Mashiach is the high priest. Then the first and last will become one, so Mashiach is king of kings, because the kingship comes from Mashiach himself. That's why the last can do all things through Mashiach, who strengthens him, as we read in the New Covenant. So the scepter is the authority that Mashiach gives us, and when it comes to the last, is the last manifesting as king to bring justice. Yaakov and Israel, the two names given to the same person, to the people, the chosen. And like I said, star right here is Kokab. Verse 17, we have it here, Kokab. That's star. So we didn't see this word when he mentioned Hillel ben Shachat, right? Just in case. It's a different word. So Yahweh promised a star that would come from Yaakov, a positive one. In fact, if I continue a little bit after that, it says, and out of Jacob one shall rule and destroy the remnant from Ar. One shall rule. He is the one who will overcome. Some translations right here, one who will overcome. One who will overcome. So with that in mind, we see that a star shall come out. One shall rule. The scepter, right? So that one that will rule, who will have dominion, who will overcome, we find it later in Revelation. If we go to Revelation, when Yahushua speaks to the congregations, we find here in verse 27, I'm read 26, and he who overcomes, so he who will rule, he who will have dominion, the one prophesied in Numbers, and he who overcomes and guards my works until the end, meaning the last, to him I shall give authority over the nations, meaning the scepter, as we see in Revelation 12 and Psalm 2:8. And that shows, Psalm 2:8 shows that it is one person, not thousands, like many people interpret with this verse. Now, like I always say, he who overcomes is a he, singular, is the witness like Moshe. But when it comes to the 144,000 who will follow that doctrine and become the body, they are one. So therefore, they are also he who overcomes. So 144,000 will overcome. The last will be the main manifestation of this prophecy. And we could even say the many who were in a false doctrine, but retain the testimony, and they tried with their strength to complete and fulfill the commandments, they would overcome through death. Not so the chosen few who won't have to die at all. So my point is, he who overcomes is the one prophesied in Numbers 24, and he who appears on the first seal, he who will go conquering and to conquer, overcoming and to overcome. And like I said, Psalm 2:8, it shows that it is one person, to whom Yahweh promises that. Many people claim it is Mashiach the first, but if so, why is Mashiach promising it to somebody else? To him, I shall give authority over the nations. And we see it in Revelation 12. In fact, I think it's important to see it, so I'll show in just a moment. Then it says, and he shall shepherd them with a rod of iron, the scepter, iron, Rome, because he comes like a Roman, dressed in red, like I said, Isaiah 63. As the potter's vessel shall be broken to pieces, as I also have received from my Father. So Mashiach is saying, I received something and I will give it to somebody else. And he's not saying like, I don't want it, so I'm going to give it to somebody else. No, he's going to give it to somebody else in a way to share it. And I say in a way because they will become one. So that which he gives to somebody else will be his after they become one. As I also have received from my Father, and I shall give him the morning star. And I shall give him the morning star. So we saw that Lucifer was called morning star. And like I mentioned, the last is represented by Israel. He who will rule like the mighty one, he who will contend with the mighty one of this world. Who's the mighty one of this world? Lucifer, the morning star. Hillel ben Shachat. So the last comes and he will have dominion. He will conquer. He will overcome in order to receive the authority to go and take Lucifer out, the dragon out of heaven. And that will be the moment when Psalm 110 will be fulfilled, when Yahweh said, sit on my right hand until I go and put your enemies as your footstool. Be in the footstool, the earth. So when Satan, the enemies of Mashiach, fall to the earth, that's when that verse is fulfilled. So the last will be given the authority that was in the power of Hillel, Lucifer, the mighty one of this world, because he's the morning star. But the morning star will be taken from him and given to the last, he who overcomes, because a star shall come out of Jacob, and he will have dominion, he will overcome, and he who overcomes will receive the morning star. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the assemblies, the congregations. If we go to Revelation 12, and a great sign was seen in the heaven, a woman, that's the congregation, clad with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and under her head a crown of 12 stars. That's something that happened in the sky a couple years ago to represent what is happening with the congregation. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign was seen in the heavens. And see, a great fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on his heads. And his tail draws a third of the stars of the heaven and throws them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, to devour her child as soon as he was born. As she bore a male child who was to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron. We just saw that is the last. In fact, Mashiach was speaking in third person of the person that would have the rod of iron, he who overcomes, etc. So, and she bore a male child who was to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught away to Elohim and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by Elohim to be nourished there 1,260 days. And there came to be fighting in the heaven, Michael, after having been born spiritually through his death and resurrection, as the witness like Moshe, and receiving the authority. Then came the fighting in the heaven. Michael and his messengers fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his messengers fought, but they were not strong enough, nor was a place found for them in the heaven any longer. Psalm 110. When the morning star falls, loses that power over that star, being that the sun, that's why the last comes as the sun of righteousness, the sun being the lamp that comes every morning. So to finish with that point, let me go to Revelation 22. And it says, verse 16, I, Yahushua, have sent my messenger. What is the messenger? A malach. And who's Mashiach's messenger? Michael. So we saw the end of what Michael will do in Revelation 12 and how he will overcome, Revelation 2. and also Revelation 3, and even Revelation 6. So I, Yahushua, have sent my messenger, my malach, Mikael, to witness. So the messenger is the witness. Mikael is the prophet like Moshe. I have sent my messenger to witness to you these matters in the assembly. So the last must appear on earth in order to speak to the congregations. And then Mashiach says, I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright and morning star, the bright and morning star, the first and the last, the bright and morning star. And I repeat, the first and the last, meaning by that moment, the first and the last will be one. He's there saying, prophesying, I will send my messenger to whom he will give the morning star. But now he says that he himself is the morning star. So two ways of seeing it is I will give myself to him in the sense that they will become one, or I will give him something that then will be mine when we become one. So that's why Yahushua said, I, Yahushua, have sent my messenger to witness to you these matters in the assemblies. I am the root of the and the offspring of David, the bright and morning star. The bright and morning star. So that was all to explain. And well, since it is here, verse 13, this is the only time when Mashiach actually said it this way. I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Finally, at that moment, first and last will be one. So let me go to the names. Born in Babel, he who was born in confusion asked of the Mighty One for his salvation, for Yahweh is righteous. He will teach and teaches Shalom, the true doctrine, as a gift, being the star of splendor, the bright star. We could say that Yahweh will give as a gift the bright star to the one sown in confusion, which is what we just saw in Revelation, Numbers, etc. So the one sown in confusion who was asked from the Almighty would bring his salvation, for Yahweh is righteous. He will teach Shalom, and he will be given the bright star, for he is the star of splendor, as in the star that comes out of Jacob. To become sovereign, he will receive the bright star to become the sovereign. As a gift, the star of splendor, the bright star, for him to be sovereign, king. The sovereign will praise Yahweh. The King of Kings will praise Yahweh as the mighty one who prevails and will rule as the mighty one. For the prophet will protect the crown, and the prophet will protect the crown. We could say, since the crown would be on the one who rules as the mighty one, we could say as well that Eliyahu will be by the side as the prophet protecting the kingdom. The sovereign praises Yahweh, the mighty one who prevails. The one who will rule as the mighty one will protect the crown as the prophet in the middle of confusion, in the middle of the confusion of the cloud breakers. There would be confusion. These are the Chaldeans, the Babylonians, those who confuse, those who fight, those who break the covenant, the truth, turn it into lies, the name, etc. So the sovereign will praise Yahweh, the mighty one who rules, for he will rule as the mighty one to protect the crown as the prophet in the middle of confusion, the confusion of the cloud breakers, that confusion will be in the furnace, or will be thrown or be possessed by the furnace, in the sense that will belong to the furnace. Remember that Koresh means, they translate it as who possesses the furnace, but it can be seen as furnace of fire, Koresh. There are other ways to translate it as well. Once again, The sovereign who praises Yahweh will rule like the mighty one and will protect the crown, the kingdom, as the prophet in the middle of confusion, the confusion of the cloud breakers. Those who are in confusion, or the confusion itself, belongs to the furnace. It will go to the fire. Confusion will be thrown in the furnace of fire. The confusion belongs in the fire. May the prophet protect the crown while teaching the true doctrine, teaching shalom in the middle of the confusion of the world. As the consuming fire, he who possesses the furnace, to throw the confusion in, to destroy the confusion, to burn the confusion of those who worship the fire, in the sense of those who are, through their worship, are being thrown in the fire. Therefore, it is like as if they worship the fire because that is what they want, that is what they desire or are asking for through their actions, beliefs, and all that. So may the prophet protect the crown through the teaching of shalom, through the true doctrine. If we teach the true doctrine, we are protecting the crown, meaning the honor of the Most High. When we teach the truth, when we teach the name, we are giving honor and telling others to give honor to the true Elohim. But if they worship another, if they invoke another, they are not actually giving honor to the true king. So may the prophet like Moshe, protect the crown by teaching peace. In the middle of confusion, he will possess the furnace as the consuming fire to burn the confusion of those who worship the fire. Teaching shalom to those who worship the fire. Also, if we were to see this as positive, because Yahweh is a consuming fire, so we worship Yahweh, who is a consuming fire. So spiritually, we worship the fire. Spiritually speaking, I want to make that clear, right? Do not misinterpret me, right? We worship Yahweh, who is a consuming fire. So this could be interpreted positive, in the positive sense. And it goes perfect with the one who possesses the furnace, or the furnace of fire. So if we see the worship of fire as positive, being the fire, Yahweh himself, may the prophet protect the crown by teaching shalom in the middle of confusion as the consuming fire, he who possesses the furnace, to burn the confusion and bring the worship of the fire, the consuming fire, by teaching shalom, by teaching peace to those who worship the consuming fire. He will teach shalom in the middle of confusion as the consuming fire, teaching peace or bringing peace, because Jerusalem is also to throw. So he will throw the shalom. He comes in a war, the war of Armageddon, and will establish shalom through the arrows he will throw, through his doctrine, his testimony, 1,260 days. So it seems to be pretty connected with the end, with the two witnesses, as we saw in the names and even the context of the chapter. I found very interesting the feast represented by Haggai, the fact that he must remember, for it is in the end, and normally it is harder to remember when there is more time passing. So Yahweh remembers refers to what he will do in the end, when so much time would pass. So his feast is important. Yahweh remembers, important. His witness, clear. The teaching of Shalom, 1,260 days of the true doctrine. Obviously, it is through the true teaching that we praise Yahweh, and through the true works, of course, the fulfillment of the commandments. The name Israel always goes with the last perfectly, just like Yitzhak goes with the first, Yahushua. Sown in confusion is perfect for everything that has said already with the names, because he's born in confusion, Babel, the world as a Gentile, something which didn't happen with Mashiach, of course. So we connect with the prodigal son. He will bring the true salvation through Yahushua HaMashiach. He will be called Yahweh, our righteousness, represented by Yahu Sadak, Yahweh Sidkenu. He will be as a gift, for he is the desired of nations, and he will be given as a gift the star of splendor, the bright star, for he is the star coming out of Jacob in Numbers 24, who will become the sovereign of sovereigns, who is a gift, and who will be given the bright star. May the prophet protect the crown also goes with the fact that the last is the prophet, who will protect the kingdom, will manifest the kingdom in the middle of the confusion produced by the breakers, and then finishing with he who possessed the fire, oven or furnace of fire, the consuming fire, and the worship of the consuming fire fits as well, because the end will be through fire, not through water, as it happened in the days of Noah. Yahushua said that the days of the Son of Man would be like the days of Noah, but this time it will be through fire, as even Haggai prophesies, as we see that he will shake the heavens and the earth, unlike the first time that he only shook the earth. So it fits perfectly to talk about the fire at the end, because Yahweh will test the hearts through the fire, and those who are gold will become purified and receive new bodies as the few chosen. So that's how that ends.